So it was, I think 1972, it might have been 1973, and I was in my first homiletics class. Homiletics means preaching. And it was my turn. And I wasn't sure I'd set it up right, so I don't remember what I said, but I tried to explain that to the congregation. And there were two instructors. One of them is a name that many of you will know, Madeline Langle, who became a great friend of mine, I'm happy to say. And the other was her mentor, this strange, wonderful man called Canon Edward West. And as I tried to explain that, he was sitting there in front of me and he yelled, "Never apologize!" So I'm not apologizing here for what I'm about to say. Instead, I'm going to say Happy Hanukkah to everyone here. And in honor of that day, although this isn't a text associated with the holiday, I'm going to tell you as best I can, without a text in front of me, my favorite story from the Old Testament. It's about one of the great Hebrew patriarchs, Jacob, who had cheated his brother Esau out of his birthright and gone into exile for many, many years until he felt himself called to return to his homeland and his family. And he set out to do that, and it got to be evening, and so he and his entourage camped at a riverside. And without really knowing why, Jacob just couldn't sleep. So he went down to the river. Don't know why. Maybe to pray, maybe to think. And he met someone there. There's a dispute. Some people call it a man. Some people call it an angel. But whoever this was, they wrestled all night. They wrestled all night. And neither one could prevail. Until finally it got to be daylight and this foe had to take off. So somehow, and again, we're not told how, he put Jacob's hip out of joint. And then set out to depart. And Jacob said to him, "Well, before you leave, may I ask for your blessing?" And the man or the angel went along and blessed Jacob with a new name. It was kind of like a baptism, a naming. And the name he was given was Israel, which, as best I can translate the Hebrew, means the one who wrestles with God. I think that's a wonderful, formative story for a religion and for a people. It's much better, for example, than George Washington chopping down the cherry tree and copping to it, which I guess is told. I don't know if it's still told in school, but the notion behind it isn't that this is great history. It's that we associate the leader of our faith with great honesty and integrity. As I'm sure you know, we're all celebrating out there these days. But the great significance of Jacob's story, in my opinion, is how it shows how Israel is blessed. It's blessed not for its faith, not for its glory or grandiosity. Israel is blessed for its struggles. And throughout history, we've seen how often that blessing needs to be ignited. I'm thinking about it here in this holiday season because it's for many of us, maybe for most of us, less a season of celebration and joy than a celebration of struggle. And if we're not feeling the struggle ourselves, every one of us here knows others who are. And I am trying to figure out how to say to you, coming unprepared as I am, sorry, Canon West, that was an apology. That we're all invited to join that struggle. And if you want to find the blessing in it, then engage in the struggle with someone else. Reach out. Reach out. There are so many people for whom all the joy that is seen comes painfully because it's not their story. And what can make it our story is when they are touched by love. My other favorite story from the Bible, I'm going to take advantage while I'm up here. It's about Jesus, but it could be really about anyone. And he's sitting in a town somewhere, and the people bring to him a woman, a young woman who was caught in adultery. And all the people who brought him, filled with righteousness, said, "This woman has broken the law. What should we do?" And Jesus says to them, "Well, what does the law say that you should do?" And the law says we should stone her. We should stone her to death. And Jesus says, "Yes, that's right. So let anyone there who is without sin cast the first stone." And one by one, the stones drop, and the people go away. And Jesus, this man, is left with a woman. And he says to her, "Well, who has condemned you?" And she says, "No one." And he says, "Then neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." And from that, I think this is part of the struggle we all have, sometimes the hardest thing to do is to drop our stones and to struggle to give forgiveness where at first we may not feel it. And the struggle that we have is to look within and ask ourselves, what do we have to judge? So this morning is a good example of how this beloved community is struggling somehow to get through this service. And not only that, but our annual meeting. And let us do so with generous and loving hearts. Amen.